and welcome to LTV News. I'm Stephanie Jo Bevington and these are today's top stories. Palestinian paramedics found a woman in Gaza trapped under debris. There were at least 14 killed in a fire in the capital city of Bangladesh. A Greek anniversary march of thousands of people culminates into anti-Israel protests. Let's start with some news from the Middle East. An amateur video posted on the internet yesterday appeared to show Syrian fighters in control of a desert airbase in Syria's Del Azor province. Plumes of grey smoke could be seen rising from some low concrete buildings as fighters examined several abandoned and burning tanks. Hamdan Airport was once used to transport farm produce, but was converted to a base for helicopters and military tanks during the unrest. The capture of Hamdan means Assad's forces only hold one airbase province, the main military airport, Deir al-Zor city. Rebels have been trying to attack airbases in particular in hope of grounding some of Assad's air power. Yesterday, dozens of Israelis packed a picnic basket and drove to Gaza's border area to watch the cross-border violence between Israel and Hamas for their own eyes. While rockets were launched out of Gaza, Israelis stood on the area near the border of the Gaza Strip to watch the Iron Dome intercepting rockets launch from the enclave. Officials in Gaza said 38 Palestinians, half of them civilians, including 8 children and a pregnant woman, had been killed in Gaza since Israel began its airstrikes. Around 400 rockets have fallen in Israel since Wednesday, and around 240 were intercepted by the Iron Dome system. Men with binoculars watched this take place from a hill near the border. Palestinian paramedics struggled this week to rescue a woman trapped in debris at a site of an Israeli airstrike.
Israeli strikes on Gaza left severe damage to a Hamas police headquarters and killed 2 children this week in the 5th straight day of fighting, though Egypt saw some indications of a truce ahead. 48 Palestinians, about half of them civilians, including 12 children, have been killed in Israel's raids. More than 500 rockets fired from Gaza have hit Israel, killing 3 people and injuring dozens. Israel unleashed its massive air campaign on Wednesday, killing a leading militant of the Hamas Islamist group on the controls Gaza and rejects Israelis' existence, with the declared goal of deterring gunmen in the coastal enclave from launching rockets have plagued its southern communities for years. The Jewish state has since launched more than 950 airstrikes on the coastal Palestinian territory, targeting weaponry and flattering militant homes and headquarters. The raids continued past midnight this week, with warships bombarding targets from the sea. An air trade targeted a building in Gaza City housing the offices of local Arab media, wounding 3 journalists from Al-Quds television, a station Israeli sees a pro-Hamas. 2 other pre-dawn attacks on houses in the Jabalia refugee camp killed 1 child and wounded 12 others. Palestinians in the Gaza Strip later fired 2 rockets at Tel Aviv, which was shot down by Israel's Iron Dome air shield.
Moving on to world news now. Thousands of Catholics, joined by church leaders, marched in cities across France yesterday to protect against... Thousands of Catholics, joined by church leaders, marched in cities across France yesterday to protest against government plans to legalise same-sex marriage. France's National Assembly is due to start examining the proposed law allowing same-sex marriage in January, with a vote expected in mid-2013. It would grant gay couples the right to adopt children, but not to use assisted procreation methods. Recent polls show the majority of French people support gay marriage, though not for the right for homosexual couples to adopt children. 3 people died after their car fell off a collapsed bridge during heavy rain near the town of Grosseto in central Italy, and severe flooding continued in the Tuscany region. It was not immediately clear if the vehicle drove off the bridge or was caught on it when it collapsed.
Tuscany and the neighbouring Umbria region have been devastated by severe flooding over the past 2 days as heavy rains caused rivers to break their banks in several areas. Rising waters have forced more than 100 people to flee their homes and take refuge in emergency shelters, and left thousands without power in the towns of Albania and Orbetello. The region's main river is still at critically high levels, with concerns that it could also burst its banks, causing more flooding in the area. The governor of Tuscany, Enrico Rossi, has asked them for help and an army to tackle the flooding. Parts of northern Italy, including the historic city of Venice, have also been hit by the heavy rain, which has placed a severe strain on the drainage systems on another infrastructure.
Scores of Greeks gathered outside Israeli embassy today, protesting against Israeli airstrikes on Gaza, following a general day of protests in Athens. The embassy protests followed a march to commemorate the Greek anniversary of a 1973 bloody student uprising in Athens, which contributed to the eventual fall of the military dictatorship then ruling Greece.
Over the years, the march has become an opportunity for disaffected Greeks to gather in opposition to the government, and this year's event takes place in a climate of public hostility to the latest round of austerity measures. In 1973, the dictatorship government sent tanks into APU, where the march begins, to quell an anti-government protest. Several were killed during the events, and it has become emblematic of struggle for freedom and a right to protest. The protest usually ends at the US Embassy, and the United States was accused back then of supporting the dictatorship, which eventually fell in 1974. The protesters wrapped up their march outside the Israeli embassy after Israel aircraft bombed Hamas government buildings in Gaza on Saturday. Protesters shouted freedom for Palestine as riot police forces formed a cordon in front of the embassy. The protesters later dispersed peacefully.
Now here's some finance news. Thousands of Slovenians rallied yesterday to protest against government austerity policies denounced by trade unionists as a noble liberal virus that is spreading across Europe. Slovenia adopted the euro in 2007 and has been badly hit by the global crisis due to dependency on exports. According to organisers, about 30,000 people gathered in a large square in the capital to call for an end to the austerity programme. Students and pensioners joined the demonstration, protesting against cuts in spending for schools and universities, increasing of taxes of students and pension cuts. Now for some sports news. Samantha Davies arrived in Madeira this week after the Brit was forced to abandon the Vendee Globe because of a broken mast. Davies was the only female competing in the event and came into trouble on Thursday evening, 130 nautical miles northwest of Madeira. Winds were believed to be in the region of 40 knots, and Davies had to sit in a survival suit for several hours until the conditions calmed down. Davies is not the first sailor to experience problems with the race. French skipper Quito de Pavant pulled out after his boat was hit by a trawler. De Pavant's skipper was forced to retire after racing just 55 miles because its titanium nil failed. 20 sailors from 5 different countries were competing in the 2012-2013 race. Now let's take a look at the world of arts and culture. Academy Award-winning director Ang Lee was on the red carpet in Los Angeles this week to talk about his new film, The Life of Pi, based on the best-selling novel of the same name. The 58-year-old director said the film took 4 years to make and that shooting water was the most difficult aspect in making a 3D film, set predominantly in the middle of the ocean portraying a host of zoo animals. The film uses computer-generated imagery to bring a somatic feel to the spiritual tale of a Hindu boy who survives a shipwreck and gets abandoned on a lifeboat for 227 days with wild zoo animals. The film will be released in the US in theatres on November the 21st. R&B star Rihanna was in Stockholm this week for the third concert of her 7 countries, 7 days, 7 shows tour. During her quick visit to the Swedish capital, she performed an intimate concert at the Berns venue. At the start of the show, she apologised to the audience for being more than 3 hours late. This week she will continue her tour to Berlin and then to Paris. The last European stop will be in London with the release of her 7th album in 7 years, Unapologetic. In order to make the cities in such short space of time, Rihanna has hired a jumbo jet. That's all we have time for today, but before we go, let's take a look over today's top stories. Palestinian paramedics found a woman in Gaza trapped under debris. There are at least 14 killed in a fire in the capital city of Bangladesh. A Greek anniversary march of thousands of people culminates into anti-Israel protests. Thank you for watching. For more information, do visit our website on www.levant.tv. Join us tomorrow at the same time. Until then, from all of us at LTV News, goodbye.